So before I glue on the fretboard to the neck, I add these little, they hide this gap. When you have a tenon joint like this, the fretboard is going to go beyond the seam where the joint is. And so you end up having a gap in there. Gibson, with their Les Paul, resolves that by putting a break angle on this and letting the fretboard rest entirely on the body at this point. I don't like that because it gives another warp factor. I don't like that the fretboard's attached to the body and the neck at the same time. I'd rather just the neck and the fretboard be attached and be one thing, and you just have less warping factor. So what I do, and what archtop guitar builders do, is they add these little, these are pieces of wood that I took actually from the piece that I cut out from the tenon, and I get them to match really well in there, and so you'll never be able to tell. I'll glue these in place to the neck joint and then come back with something and level these flat, and then we'll decide where I want to actually cut them off at, and I'll cut them off probably about right here on either side so that this curved portion of the fretboard will stick out a little bit. So I'm just going to use super glue and glue these up. It's one of the last steps that I have before I can actually glue the fretboard to the neck, and we need to do that so that I can cut the nut, start preparing the nut, measure exactly where the bridge is going to sit. This is a string through bridge, so I'm going to have to cut some holes through the body and then put some ferrules on the back. We're going to have to figure out how deep we're going to need to cut this. I mean, I need to order the pickups. I haven't even ordered. We're going to do an Imperial humbucker from Lawler in the bridge position and a Lawler P90 soap bar cream. So that'll sit right here, and we'll have to, build a pick guard around all of this. So first step though is I need to glue these in place, then level this down flat, and then we can look at putting in some indexing pins, gluing the fretboard to the neck, and then we can radius the fretboard and start fretting and all that kind of stuff. So I've got my plugs in place, they're glued, and I'm using my Japanese saw, and I'm trying to stay as true to the God, that's bright, the neck as I can. I don't want to go lower than that because I want to sand everything flat once I get in there. So I'm just using the neck, this tenon, as a guide to stay flat and true. I don't want to go lower than that, but I don't want to go too high because I don't have to sand too much. These saws are so incredible sharp. Good. So see, it's still a little higher. That's what I want. So now I can come back with a sanding block, get a better idea of where this is actually going to sit and what I need to remove. So see how I need to remove probably to like there on either side, right where the curvature starts. And then I'll have to kick back down some of this to get flush with the body. And remember, it's about like 3/8. And so all of this is going to come down, and there will be a little floating edge right in here where this will float over the fretboard, or float over the body. And then we'll get to mapping out how we design, pick guard and all that fun stuff. So I've got my neck, whatever these are called, cut. I've got my fretboard ready to be laid out, and so now what I need to do is make sure I've got enough space from where the fretboard ends to where I want my P90 to go. The P90 is going to sit in the neck position. So, alright, so that's in. Fretboard's going to sit roughly like that. Now I've marked out where the 24th fret should occur, had I done a 24 fret neck, and it was like 476. So that's about where a 24 fret guitar fretboard should end. And so I want to put a P90 about right there. And I need a few inches of clearance to come out, and that's pretty close to that cutaway, because this cutaway is actually going to come in some to meet with the neck right here. So what I might have to do is cut some more off of the neck, or just put the P90 about right there. It's still closer than it would be had it been a full neck. And so I think I've got enough room. The P90 will sit about like that. And it'll be inside of a pick guard, so it'll look nice. Let me draw out a few things. Let me see. So this is going to come in like that. That cutaway will be there. This is going to come down and wrap in like this to the neck right there. So our pick guard is going to do something like that. So I need the P90 to sit. P90 is like 3 inches wide. So the face of it could sit about right there. Is that enough room? 476, that would be 12. Yeah, so that's where a normal humbucker would go. I'd like to kick it more this way, but maybe I could make some room by doing that. Let me see if I've got a P90 cover. Try it that way. So I grabbed some stuff I had just laying around from other builds. Here's a P90 that I wound, and I put I think this is maple. I built a cap for it, a cover for it out of maple. But it's a P90, it's a big fat P90. That's a really big P90, and so that's not going to work. It would have to sit down like there, which is still okay. This is your traditional humbucker case. So we'd have a P90 like that. And then 25 inches would be roughly like that. I don't know. I think I'm going to have to kick this neck in some. So I'm going to have to cut away from there. So I'm going to hold off on the fretboard right yet and see if I can make some more space. Alright, so I have a solution. What I'm going to have to do is cut out a new notch, where the neck is going to meet the body. And I'm going to come in about 1/2 inch. And so that'll redraw this curve. And this is why I leave a lot of space around this area, because the pocket needs to be fashioned after the neck is set. So I'm going to have to come in about 1/2 inch, and what that'll do is put the fretboard there, and that'll give me enough room to put a P90 about right here, which will give me plenty of space to be within a pick guard and to be closer than where the 24th fret would have been if I made a 24 fret. It's going to be just what I need. The only problem is I'm going to have to cut out a little bit more, which is good because I'll have more of a cap here on the bottom for the heel cap once we get to, you know, finishing the neck and doing that transition from the body to the neck. So I'm going to cut this out with, you know, my Japanese saw, mortise this, or cut out this mortise a little bit more with some chisels, and then get the neck to fit, and then I'll be able to glue the fretboard today. And so I'm going to start working on positioning this and then putting in some indexing pins, and then we can clamp it down. So I reset the neck. I cut the, you know, the little tenon into the body a little bit more, and I've still got tons of wiggle room as far as how the, you know, the neck's going to join to the face of the body. Joint looks really good, you know, blah blah blah. So let's see. So what we're going to do now is re-identify our center line and get our fretboard so that it sits, you know, down the center. So to do that, I got my laser out. Let me see if I can kill some of these lights. There we go. So here's my center line, and I've got it lined up with the center line of the body down here and at the headstock. So now all we're going to do is place our fretboard where we want it, and we're going to clamp it down once we get it just right. I didn't really think this out. Can't really see what's going on. So let me get it centered, and then I'll come back and turn some lights on. Alright, so the lines are all lined up, and I've got the fretboard clamped down, and I'm going to add some indexing pins so that this will be a real easy glue up. It looks really straight. I'm real happy with how this is turning out because of that neck. The neck blank, when I put it together, it is not straight. I made sure to use the, you know, the center pinstripes as my center line rather than either side because they were so unsquare. And again, that doesn't matter if you build necks the way that I do, in that I put the fretboard on and I build the fretboard separate, and then I use the fretboard to trim the excess, this stuff, off. So it's going to look great, but right now it just is so wonky that it's hard to see, you know, what I'm actually doing. But it looks like we'll be able to get a P90 right about there, because a P90 is smaller. P90 pickup actually will fit inside of this rectangle. The casing, this is for a humbucker. So we'll get a P90 about right there, which is great. This is what we were going for. It's getting a fatter sound. Again, the more this way, the more you move that pickup, the fatter the sound is. And it's just getting it's getting a wider oscillation of the vibrating string. At least that's my interpretation of it. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and set these indexing pins, and hopefully we'll get to gluing the fretboard tonight, and that way I'll have time tomorrow to throw it on the router table and, you know, hog off the excess. And I need to get to gluing wings for the headstock, and then once the fretboard is glued and then before the neck is tapered, we need to draw out our width, our volute, our final neck thickness. And so once I get this glued, I'll have a chance to draw out some of those other components to the neck.